there are yogis who have lived for the longest time, and that's because they learn to stop time. Youngsters like you will start with the idea. I mean, that is
the hook, that drags you in.
once you start your yoga class, that's when you start discovering the changes that happen to you.
Hello everyone, a global namaste to you all. Welcome to the Yoga, Body and Mind podcast. Have you ever wondered about yoga and didn't know where to begin? Join me in my journey to discover this ancient enigmatic practice. My name is Sneha, and with me today is our wonderful wellness expert, Shubha. So, where do we start?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Sneha. Okay, let's start by just understanding yoga, just in case people wonder. So, the term yoga is coined from the word yuj, which in Sanskrit, Sanskrit, if you know, is an Indian language, is an ancient Indian language. It's actually one of the primary languages of the world. There are only 3 languages which are traced back to that time. So in Sanskrit, yuj means union, connecting, bringing together. Now, yoga is a very subtle science which help us to create harmony between the body and the mind. It is as simple as that. It is not a very complicated concept. But the steps to it, it's easier said than than actually doing it, because it's our mind is such a thing that when we talk about our mind, it is completely dependent on our senses. Now, sense organs are like little tentacles. We have got 5 sense organs, which I can just name it just in case people wonder. It's the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and the hand. These are organs, sense organs. And these senses are the ones which go outward into the world and gathers information for us. Now, the mind is completely dependent on these sense organs to understand what is happening in the external world, the physical world. Now, we're gathering so much of information day in and day out that the mind is constantly on a roller coaster. Do you understand what is happening to the mind? It's completely on a roller coaster.
It's quite overwhelming.
It doesn't know what to concentrate on. It doesn't know focus on. It tries to understand one thing. By the time there are a million other information which has been fed into the subconscious level by the sense organs. Now, yoga, what it does, so this is something which our ancient seers understood, observed, and they realized that, the best way to understand this is by withdrawing all the senses, inward. So whatever we humans have a tendency to be outward because of our senses. So the best way is to bring all the senses inward and help the mind to kind of fluctuate less. So the less your organs are creating havoc, the less the mind fluctuates. So that is the concept of yoga. It is just to bring the outward world, stop looking outward and then just come inward, create a stability inside so that the mind reduces the fluctuations. Stopping is like absolutely achieving nirvana. It's almost impossible to stop the mind. Okay, it is not, it's possible, but there's a lot of effort which goes into it. But even if we can reduce the fluctuation, okay, that ordinary human being will feel much more in control.
I'm sure it sounds pretty simple, but it must be quite a task to achieve it.
It is not easy, and that is why uh, it's been 6,000 years, and we're still trying to figure out. However,
Wow.
yes, and it's just that now what is happening is that we have it's like we've come one full circle. Though we started with understanding the inside world, but somewhere in between we got lost. Okay, we started exploring other avenues, exploring ways and means to kind of understand yoga, and we ended up with the asanas. Asanas means physical exercises. So the exercises have become very important, especially in the 20th century and a little bit of 21st century. Exercise has become very important. The asana concept has become very important.
So, how do asanas help us unite body and mind? Like, what is the logic behind how does that work?
So asanas is just
Okay.
one part of the Yoga Sutras. I have to mention the Yoga Sutras, though I wanted to keep that for a later day. But because
Okay.
it's like you can't even finish the Yoga Sutras within 1 hour or 2 hours. It needs at least a couple of hours for us to even understand what Yoga Sutra is. But Yoga Sutras was written by sage Patanjali. And in that,
Okay.
asana is one of the steps of achieving yoga.
Okay. So it's one component, let's say.
One part. Though we can call it
Okay.
stages, levels, people call different names because it's very difficult to
Okay.
translate an Indian language to English. So, but it's one part of the 8 limbs of yoga. And asana, what it does is that when you start slowing down, okay, your movement, because your movement
Okay.
actually helps you to, it's not aggressive movement. It has to be, it is slow movement. So when you start moving slowly and consciously, okay, you become more in control of your senses. And that is why yoga was introduced, the asanas were introduced into the system. Now, asanas help you to remain still. So, sit still. For example, if you have aches and pains all over your body, there's no way you can sit still. And if you cannot sit still, how do you do meditation? How do you withdraw your senses? How do you become still inside? It's very difficult.
So asanas, basically, they strengthen your body so that you are able to sit still and you're not distracted by anything, uh, any pain or any numbness of the body or something like that.
Is one of the ways of, because
Okay. Okay.
you cannot say that if you start doing asanas you will not have pain. It's a very
Okay.
it's something that reduces the instability, reduces the restlessness, reduces the aches and pains of the body. So where it becomes tolerable for you to sit in a still position. Once you become an advanced yogi, of course, you can absolutely detach from your body and go inward. However, when we start, not ordinary human beings, when we start the practice of yogasana, what it does is it releases the tightness in the body, rigidity of the body. It reduces the restlessness of the body. And that actually helps you to sit still for a longer time. We can use props, we can use comfortable seating positions, we can use that. But if it's completely rigid, even the props might not help you. So even if you reach 75% of, of a level of a yogi, Forget 75%. I would say even if you reach 25% of a yogi, of a professional yogi, you'll be completely fine.
Okay. So, tell us a bit more about how you started into this practice of yoga. Why did you start? And how did you start?
Okay, so I was somebody who was very interested in dancing. I was interested in athletics. Interested in sports. So I was very conscious about the fitness of my fitness levels. However, yoga in my times was not something that was very popular at that time. We hardly had anything on yoga. Yoga used to be for people who want to pursue a very deep, rigid spiritual life. So we were brought up to think that yoga is something for people who want to give up the world and go into the spiritual world. So when I started more with the normal fitness like aerobics and walking, running, but I was intrigued by yoga. It used to pop in every now and then. I would want to go for a yoga class, but uh, I was a bit skeptical about the whole thing. But I used to read about it. I used to wonder, okay, because we didn't have the kind of classes that we have today. Those days, it was almost impossible. We didn't have Google. We didn't have YouTube. We had nothing, and we hardly had any physical classes around us. So it was almost impossible. So whatever little bit we could read about it, we would read about it. And that is how I understood a little bit of yoga. But I didn't start practicing until the late 90s when I realized I just felt that I needed to kind of practice it. So I slowly started, maybe twice or thrice a week. I would just kind of practice on my own certain poses, certain asanas. And as I started practicing, I started realizing I have a flair for it. I have an aptitude for it. So even then, it was not something that I was consciously doing. It was something out of interest. And then it's in 2000 when we had more information on yoga that I started practicing. Even then, it was usually I was practicing on my own. And it was only in 2002, if I'm right, if I remember right, that I started teaching yoga. Because until there, I would teach fitness classes, aerobic classes, and generally I would do all that. But yoga was not something I started teaching. It is only in 2002 that, because people also were not very interested. They thought yoga was too slow. It's meditative. It's something that old people do. Okay, so I introduced one class, just one class in once a week, and within the next 2 3 weeks, I think people started kind of understanding how yoga was like helping them. And 3 months down the line, everybody started getting hooked onto it. Everyone was hooked onto it. And that is when I started adding more classes. And I really felt happy because this is something I really wanted to do for a long time, but didn't have the confidence to do it. And then, of course, I did all my certifications. I did my master's in yoga and naturopathy. So it was wonderful. After that, I was like very happy. And by the time YouTube had come, Google had come, so there's more and more information until it started getting really weird because it suddenly became an international thing. And it was something that I was very thrilled about because I was happy that I started very early, and now I'm like comfortable to kind of be in that zone, and that is my very very simple story.
When I was growing up, I remember that yoga would could only be learned through books. So I remember what you're saying. It was very difficult to access yoga classes, even though we grew up in India. I the yoga class concept is a very foreign concept. Even my parents, they used to learn how to do yoga through books, because there were a few books in my house, so, and it's spot on. Even for me, back in the day, I used to view yoga as something that only old people did, because I didn't really see anybody else doing it, but clearly they were onto something, because anybody that I've seen who's been practicing yoga, they don't look their age, just like you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the.
So I think this is the reason why all of us are really interested now, because the main motivation seems to be how to stay young for longer.
Yes, absolutely. I think, and why not? Why not? Isn't it? Why not?
Yeah.
This has been the journey for all the yogis as well. They almost stop time, So there's a
Yeah.
reason for that. There are yogis who have lived for the longest time, and that's because they learn to stop time. And there are, however, for that yoga was not only for the asanas and for the looks and for the aesthetic part of it. So
Mm.
now people, as I told you, it's coming one full circle. Okay, though youngsters like you are looking for it again because of you will start with the idea. I mean, that is the temptation that you have to
The hook, yeah, that drags you in.
to a yoga class. But once you start
Yeah.
your yoga class, that's when you start discovering the changes that happen to you. They say it cannot be expressed, and very true. And I can keep talking for the next 2 hours and still will not be able to express to you what it does to you, because it is a personal experience. It is something
Mm.
that it is not that, okay, I'll become calm, I'll become less
Mm.
angry. That's not the thing. It just changes you. It just changes you as an individual. When I say changes you, it doesn't kind of change your personality or anything. It just
Mm.
changes the way you start reacting, responding to the worldly challenges. You are the same
Mm.
personality. That is not going to change. You just become a, I won't say, I don't like to use words like better, because as if you were worse. You just
Mm.
become, you bring out the highest potential that you are. You bring out that potentiality inside you. Uh, from the inside, it just starts coming out and starts
Mm.
being noticed by others. You don't notice it. It's people around you who will come and tell you, hey, what have you been doing? I think, is there
Mm.
anything you've been doing? And that's when you start saying, oh, this is working. Because you become a part of it. Okay, you're not uh, different from yoga. You just become a part of yoga. And
Mm.
that is the change that happens. And that can be experienced only if you start practicing it.
Hmm. So like you said, it affects everyone in a unique way. Yeah. So how has it affected you, or what is um, your favorite thing that yoga has given you?
So when I started yoga, I was brought up, as you know, culturally. I was brought up in India, and culturally, we are supposed to be a little bit uh, quieter, shyer,
Mm. Mm.
so-called nice people. So that was something which I was brought up in, and it was very natural for me to be that. However, when you become young adults, what happens is that, that same thing is sometimes taken for granted, and
Mm.
you start feeling sensitive about everything. It's because you think, because people don't take you seriously, and
Mm.
that is something which happens
Yeah.
most of the girls who
No
No
get
one
one
takes
brought up.
you
takes you
seriously.
seriously. Especially when you're young, no one takes you seriously.
Absolutely. And especially if you're nice, then absolutely no one
Yeah.
will take you
Yeah.
seriously. I've had questions like, how can you be so nice, So even that question has
Mm.
come in. And it's just something that it was not pretending to be. It was just that we were brought up in that particular way. But it doesn't help you, because at the end of the day, um, it's not about being nice. It's about being
Mm.
the best version of yourself. So when you are the
Mm.
best version of yourself,
Mm.
automatically it is something everyone accepts you the way you are. Okay, you don't have to be nice to be accepted, or you don't have to be good to be accepted. You just have to be the best version of yourself and be truthful to yourself. And that is something when I started yoga, I started realizing it. I didn't go after it. It was something, as was talking to you earlier, it was something which happened to me. It's only when people started noticing that I said, oh, okay, that is something which I'm very happy about. And that is my favorite part. And I can never be thankful enough to yoga for that. That there is a lot of other things which has happened, but I think that is because that I would have never realized it. I would have been 90 years old and would have been still the same person, if it wasn't for yoga.
That is, I think that is the struggle that most young adults face. Yeah. So it's like, where do you strike a balance between being nice and being yourself? So I think that's a really wonderful way to explain yoga, especially for me. I've understood it quite, quite well, because it's almost like connecting you to your true self. Yeah, that's essentially, in a nutshell, what yoga does. Am I correct?
Absolutely right. Because it is not a religion, it is not something which is forced upon you, it is not something that is a dogmatic philosophy. It is something which tells you, hey, listen, okay, you have all the potential in the world, you've been given this. Now, would you like to discover yourself? Would you like to be less perturbed, less stressed about, how the external world is is bothering you? Would you like to be steady and still in the chaos around you? So it just tells you, would you like to? That is the question. Okay. So the first sentence of the Patanjali's Yoga Sutra states actually that now begins the practice of yoga. So it is a very open thing. There is absolutely no way to begin it. You have 8 parts which you have to parallelly practice. Okay, and it's one of the most subtle sciences that you will ever find. It's like a roadmap for humans to find themselves and contribute whatever they have, whatever talent, whatever skills they have, to contribute that or to share that with the whole world. That's all it is.
That's beautiful. So I've never had it explained to me in this way. Like, I'm looking at yoga in a completely different light now. Even though I've always heard this word and I've always been around, yoga and people who are in the yogic lifestyle, I've never understood what it means to when people said, you have to connect with yourself or you have to go inwards. Yeah, I've never really truly understood. Of course, I understand what it means, but I didn't really understand the essence of the statement. But I think now I understand it perfectly. Yeah. So it is reducing conflict inside yourself and basically also harmonizing your existence within the outside world. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And let me tell you, Sneha, this is also the reason that we are doing this podcast. What happens is that in a class, when you are doing a class or you are teaching a class or you are practicing in a class, you are so focused on your asanas, you're focused on your breathing, you're focused on, on experiencing the meditative state, so all that is happening. So at that point of time, you can't talk about the deeper qualities of yoga. It is impossible because you have to give space for the practitioner to experience it. So you can't keep on talking, though we do. Yoga teachers do talk a lot. Now you understand why they talk. Because there's so much of information that we want to give away. But we can't do that on a continuous basis because then we are interfering with the practice. So we cannot share this in a class uh, beyond a limit. So so books are something, of course, writing books.
But not everyone likes to read.
Exactly. Today's world, I don't want to say that, but today's world, who reads? No, hardly,
Yeah.
very few
Yeah.
people read. They like to listen, they like to watch. So maybe that is one. It was a blessing when we decided, okay, let's do a podcast. I was very thrilled because this is a platform where I can share all this, whatever little bit I know. I don't know much, but whatever little bit I know, I would love to share this with everyone.
Okay, perfect. So is that why you started yoga?
Yes, yoga is actually a result of 25 years of my experience. Okay, so it is something um, which has which has been there inside me for a long time, but I just didn't. You know how in the last 10 years, YouTube and the number of classes and thousands of people practicing. I mean, learning, teaching yoga. So I was a bit. You can say something called spiritual arrogance. Okay, as you are, as you are, I'm also victim to it. So what happens is when as you progress, sometimes you realize that oh, like this is not how it is to be done. Oh, why are they doing it this way? Why are they giving importance to asanas? Asanas is just one part. Forgetting that I also started with asanas. I also started when I was young. I also wanted to look good. I wanted to look fit. And that is how I started. It so happened that while practicing, I discovered it. But when you reach a particular stage, then suddenly you think, the spiritual arrogance, as we coin it, it comes in and they say, okay, why are they doing it this way? So I also went through that stage. So I, for some time, okay, stopped practicing, not practicing, stopped teaching yoga for some time, so until I kind of, sat back and, I kind of understood, okay, this is not what uh, I am supposed to do. It's completely. We were warned sometimes when we do our yoga classes and when I went to do my courses, we were warned that this would happen. Spiritual arrogance is definitely something that happens. But I was not ready to accept it. But slowly, I think within a year or so, I understood. And then I started going for classes. That is, I started attending other people's classes. And that is how, like, I reduce my, you can say my humility. I kind of I incorporated my humility into myself. I had it. It's not that we were raised, as you said, we were brought up culturally. We brought it to be humble, humble, humble. But this was something different.
Yeah, of course. You have to constantly remind yourself, it's very easy to slip into different stages of our mind likes to stay in control.
Absolutely. And that also was a lesson for me because it was, so see, we just ordinary human beings. Okay. The state of a yogi is different. Okay. They work quite hard to come to a level of the way ancient yogis were. We're just ordinary human beings and we need to keep our we need to understand that is we need to take things step by step. We need to understand, and if we make mistakes, it's okay. We all make mistakes. I also went through that stage, and I think it took me a year to kind of bounce back. And I started attending classes, and I started feeling better about it. And then back, I was back teaching and talking about yoga and learning more about yoga.
Perfect. Um, so, what does yoga do? So, what do you offer at, well, what are the things that you offer at yoga?
Okay, yoga um, has classes regular. That is, we have body and mind sessions on a regular basis. We have retreats. uh, retreats. We have podcasts. We'll have regularly, we'll be posting small little tips and information and knowledge about yoga on reels and shorts. So this is, for the time being, this is what we have started with. And this is something I would want to take it further with, retreats all over the world, which is also something I have in mind. And also, like online classes is something which I might start at some point. I don't want to do online classes at this moment because it gets, I would like to keep that space for retreats. So retreats is definitely big on my agenda.
So, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the Yoga, Body and Mind podcast. If you like what you've just heard, please visit us on our website www.getyogue.com and follow us on all our social media platforms for more content just like this. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment any questions that you might have for us. Also, don't forget to turn on the bell icon so you never miss any of our future episodes. Thank you once again and see you next Wednesday.